Just came out of the infamous Sunday, Walmart shopping. Most people do it. Not everybody goes to Walmart, but, it's close to the house. I'm going to raise Battle Shield so that you can hear me, because there's a lot of loud diesel trucks and cars going by, motorcycles, etc., etc. So being in the Walmart on a Sunday, it's packed full of people, and it kind of inspired some thoughts that I want to talk to you about. The American church, I think, has hidden in the four walls of the church. And when I think about the Walmart thing, I've followed a lot of ministries that take ministry outside of the church. You'll see healing videos in Walmart. You'll see people in parks. I've seen a guy get saved in a parking garage. All sorts of things. And, I've had a very hard time actually finding a physical church to go to, because very few churches will teach or acknowledge end-time prophecy. They won't even acknowledge the times that we're living in. If you tell them about things, current events that are happening word for word out of the Bible, they look at you like a space creature. And, that comes to the same conclusion when you talk about healing ministry, prophetic words of knowledge. I just went to the Goodwill and came across a interesting book called God Speak. It's about hearing the voice of the Lord. But the reason for this video, the thoughts that I've been kind of meditating on, contemplating on, what I would like to experience more of as a Christian, and what I would like society to experience more of as a Christian, is marketplace ministry. When you see people in Walmart or just out in general, not necessarily that, you need to have a specific healing ministry where you're ministering to people in Walmart, or a specific, you don't have to do what everybody else is doing, but I think what the American church and myself needs to improve on is marketplace ministry. Stop hiding in the building and go to the people, because you can see just an abundance of people that are not going to church. We live in a very unchurched generation. The millennial generation that's coming up is very ignorant of biblical matters, and that's not 100%. I'm not saying, if you're one of these, younger generation people, I'm not declaring the entire generation to be done, but, and this is typically the devil too. I'm sitting here trying to make a video and a giant diesel pulls up 2 spots away from me. So, I would like to see marketplace ministry. I remember a time before I was born again that I walked into a Walmart and I got, past the greeter. I was still in the front of the store, and this older guy stops me, and I was only 20-something at the time, and at the time in my life I was smoking and drinking and partying and doing whatever I wanted to do. This older guy stops me in Walmart, and the first thing out of his mouth was like, "Do you know Jesus?" And I backpedaled like, what's happening right now? How do you respond to this? And, most typical responses are like, "Oh, well, I go to church," or "I grew up in church." But knowing Jesus and going to church are 2 separate things. Attending a building and knowing God are 2 separate things. And knowing God leads to hearing God, and again, I don't think that you need to specifically copy what somebody else is doing, but I think what we need to do specifically is be able to hear God and be able to act on it in obedience. I had a situation little more than a week ago, where I spoke to somebody on Facebook, and the Lord was just, I felt like I had this kind of thought on repeat, and I asked the person that question, which just seemed like a very common, strange question, but by me initiating the conversation, it led to a couple words of knowledge and being able to encourage this person that wouldn't have otherwise happened if I didn't follow that, that thought that led into the conversation. So, just as Christians in general, I think that it's important that we're willing to go outside the church, outside the building, and be Christians in public, just like Jesus was. And I need to do a lot of growing in this myself. I've had experiences in the past where I've done this, and there's risk involved. There's risk, there's fear, there's fear of being found to be weird. The subtitle of this book is funny: How to Hear God's Voice Without Getting Weird. And it's like Christianity and society has this thing of like, well, I don't want to come off as being weird. But when you read the Bible, so many things were weird. So I think we have to even get past the fear of being perceived as weird. For you to be able to lay hands on the sick or to give a word of prophecy or word of knowledge, you have to cross a line of comfort zone, of normalcy, of, just status quo in society, and you have to take a risk that is absolutely perceived as weird. So, myself, I need to grow in this, but also as a society, need to grow in this. As Christianity, we need to grow in this. So we live in a very unchurched generation, and the generation that's coming up is more unchurched than any, in previous years, at least in my time. I just turned 40 yesterday, by the way. So I've been on YouTube for at least a decade, I think, and it's been a solid 12 years since I had my experiences with Jesus, delivering me from alcohol, revealing to me that he saved my life in Iraq, doing all these supernatural things. And one of the things that he told me to do is put my testimony on YouTube, because what it does is it reaches people in their home. It reaches people in their pocket, I wonder what percentage of you are actually watching YouTube on your phone anywhere, other than at home, because it has that ability to reach outside of the walls of the church. So I think that's one of the reasons that the Lord had me to go down this path. But, as Christians, as people that follow Jesus, as people that want to hear the voice of the Lord and be obedient, I really think that much of that is not, doesn't necessarily happen in a church building. So many of the experiences that I've had have been in house churches. I've had experiences in public. I've had experiences outside of the church building. And, a lot of the church building experiences I've had have actually given me reason to criticize the church for, just cutting their belief system short and putting God in a box. I've had to leave churches because they were just, I left one specifically because I could feel that the leading of the Holy Spirit was, going in a different direction. And then because of schedules and, do your 3 songs, do your announcements, sit down and do your sermon, because of doing it according to man's ways, they would quench the Spirit. When the Spirit was trying to move in a certain direction to do a certain thing, they would quench the Holy Spirit. And we can't grow as Christians in that environment. We can't reach people supernaturally in that environment. And it actually turns Christianity into a routine, into a religion, into something dry and dead, when the Holy Spirit is alive, unpredictable, and His voice is how we are led to reach the lost. It's not always going to be, a cookie cutter fashion. You do this, 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 and this, and then this is the result. The Holy Spirit is very unique. Look at the life of Jesus. There's 3 different times that that I'm thinking of that He healed a certain thing, whether it was blindness or muteness, and He didn't do it the same way twice. There's one time He made clay and put it in the man's eyes. He would lay hands and do it that way. There was one time He spit on a guy's tongue. So even to perform the same healing, He didn't even use the same method, because He was led by the Father. He was led by the Holy Spirit. So that, I believe, we need to grow in and be willing to take Christianity outside of the church, outside of the building. If I, as a Christian, desire to experience that outside of the building, what about the unsaved who has no experience with the supernatural? How impactful would that be? So, we got to get past the fear of man thing, myself included. And I've thought about that recently, where we need to recognize that the voice of fear is the flesh and the devil. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. So if fear is the voice that you're hearing, you have to consider what's the source of that and why is that occurring? Because what's on the other side of fear? If you are obeying fear, you're obeying the flesh and the devil. But if you get past that fear, you're able to obey the Holy Spirit. So no condemnation on anybody, but I pray that this is something that we all grow in, myself included, because Walmart is full of people that need to hear from the Lord, and a lot of times they're not going to go get it themselves. They need to hear it through a Christian that hears the voice of God, or they need to experience or feel it or something other than, a church invitation, because this generation is just kind of done with perceived religion. They need to experience the Holy Spirit, not the church building. So pray about it. It's something I'm praying about too. And I pray that the American church is able to go in this direction, because we're surrounded by the lost and the dying. And Jesus doesn't do things in cookie cutter, predictable fashion. You've got to be available and bold. In Jesus' name.